So today you're going to be peer evaluating your rough drafts. So today, obviously, deadline for rough draft. Um, doesn't matter how you do your rough draft, whether you do it with a Google Doc or if you have a hard copy. Either way is fine. So what you should have in front of you is this. This is the peer evaluation form, and it is just a little bit simplified version of the rubric. And so just some reminders about how to grade using the rubric. So remember, grading, you will be starting, assuming they're at a 0 in each criterion, and working your way up by checking off, do they have these things? So for example, in criterion A, if there's no clear statement of task, then they are a 0. And then if they do have a clear statement of task, then they would at least be at a 1. So what you're going to do is, because you are going to have two people peer evaluate, both people are going to use the same paper for you. So what you're going to do is, as you peer evaluate someone's paper, you're just going to initial where you think they land on the rubric. So for example, if I think someone lands at a 2, then I would just initial with an RME. That's totally what that is. And then the next person would just also initial in that same box, or wherever else they think you land on the criterion A. So again, each criterion, remember, you start at 0 and work your way up. So as you peer evaluate today, just do your best to decide where you think the person is on the rubric based on what their project is that they gave you to look at. On the other side of this handout is it is feedback from IB itself, the IB organization. And this is for projects from last year, just in general feedback for projects from around the world for each criterion. And there's a lot of good information here that you need to pay attention to for each criterion. I'm not going to highlight every single thing that you need to look at, because you need to spend some time reading through this specifically. But there are a lot of things that we've been saying over and over, like detailed plan. And specifying purpose. So for criterion A, you need to have a detailed plan. You need to specify the purpose behind each mathematical process. And then notice full marks were not common. And I made a comment various times that jumping from a 2 to a 3 is very difficult for this part of the rubric, this criterion. So you need to make sure you're paying attention to the project checklist for each criterion, going through and checking off, okay, do I have this? Do I have this? And then just, again, making sure you read through this feedback specifically. The big thing is criterion C. A lot of you are thinking more processes, the better. And that's something that we try to hit hard on, is saying the not more the better. It's the quality. It's the purpose behind the calculations is more important than just having more. Again, you can see specific feedback for chi-squared tests that have been done, especially with issues of expected values less than 5. That's something that we really try to reinforce here, that if you have expected values less than 5, you have to do you have to regroup, you have to redo your intervals so that you avoid that. So again, spend some time reading through this at some point. But at this time, you're going to be doing some peer evaluations. Rough draft, basically you need to complete 2 peer evaluations. Whatever you have today is what needs to be peer evaluated, because you need to know where you stand. If this was due today, you need to know what grade you would have. And for some of you, hopefully it's a little kick in the pants, for a little over a week is your final draft, right? A little over a week is your final draft when it's due. You can have groups of 3, right? So you're going to be making your own groups here. Please don't leave people out. Make sure you include people. Make sure you get people in a group. But groups of 3 or 4 would be okay. But make sure you are in a group. When your group is done with your peer evaluations, you only need 2. You can have 3 or more. But before you leave, you need to have at least 2. And you're going to keep the paper. I'm not going to collect it this time. But make sure you do spend some time on the apps. The Unit 5 apps are due next Friday for you guys. So make sure you spend some time on those. And then just to reiterate, our final deadline for you guys is Monday, February 24th. And you need to make sure you are aware of the late penalties again. Late penalties are accepted, but there are penalties for being a few days late compared to a little over a week late. And then if you hit March 3rd, if you submit your project after March 3rd, you will no longer be exempt from the final here at GHS. You will have to take the final. Okay. So pay attention to the late deadlines. I obviously don't plan on being late, but be aware that there are penalties. Again, this is your final exam grade, and for a late penalty, that's just going to hurt you even more. So make sure you get it done and turned in, and we will spend some time next week talking more about the final draft. But make sure you are putting in the effort now. Okay. Final draft details. We'll talk more about those. You can pause the video and read through those briefly if you want. But make sure. So next class period, there's really nothing due specifically, but within a week, a little over a week, deadline 5, and then Unit 5 apps are due a week from today for you. So make sure you are working on those and getting them done.